When a retired German shepherd suddenly attacks the town's friendly ice cream man, no one expects what's about to unfold. But as police arrive and start searching the ice cream truck, they discover a horrifying secret that sparks outrage across the entire nation. Watch how the instincts and courage of a German shepherd change the lives of countless children and bring a community together. If you're inspired by stories of bravery and the loyalty of a German shepherd, don't forget to subscribe for more true rescues and heart-stopping tales. Maple Ridge was the kind of town that seemed untouched by trouble. A sleepy suburb with clean sidewalks, proud maple trees, and on Sundays, the soft hum of families filling the park with laughter. That morning, the sun shone through a thin veil of mist. Children and bright windbreakers chased kites. Couples picnicked near the pond. It was the kind of scene that made people believe in safety, in ordinary happiness. Officer Erin Carter patrolled the edge of the park, her boots soft on the damp grass. She looked the part, tall, square-shouldered, eyes sharp behind mirrored sunglasses. Yet beneath that calm exterior was a pulse of nerves, an echo from the past she couldn't shake. At her side walked Titan, her German shepherd, a retired K9, fur streaked with gray, one ear nicked from a knife years ago. Titan moved with a quiet nobility, head high, but his gaze darted everywhere, always vigilant. Erin's radio crackled, just static. She exhaled. Routine. The town trusted her, mostly. She'd earned their respect, but ghosts from an old, failed rescue still haunted her steps. Every time a child's laughter rang out, she felt both hope and dread. Titan's ears pricked. In an instant, his entire body snapped taut. Erin followed his gaze. An old ice cream truck, faded with time, chugged slowly down the park lane. Children squealed, running to its side. The driver, a thin man with watery blue eyes, forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He jingled his bell, offering rocket pops and jokes. Suddenly, Titan lunged, barking with a fury Erin hadn't seen in months. The leash burned in her hand as he strained toward the truck, growling, eyes locked on the driver. Families gasped. A little girl shrieked. Ice cream cones fell in the grass. The park erupted in panic. Erin's mind raced. A dog bite, a false alarm, a child caught in the chaos. She could almost feel the weight of judgment from the crowd. "Titan, heel!" she snapped, fighting to keep her voice steady. Inside, panic clawed at her. The memory of her last failed rescue, the sound of a girl's voice calling for help, a door she didn't break down fast enough, flashed across her mind like lightning. The ice cream man stepped back, voice strained. "Control your dog, officer." But Titan didn't flinch. He looked up at Erin, eyes desperate, as if begging her to trust him. Erin's hand hovered over her holster. She scanned the driver, the truck, the crowd. What was she missing? The air seemed thick with tension. "Sir, I need you to open the back of the truck," Erin said, projecting calm she didn't feel. The man's smile faltered. "You got a warrant?" His voice was high, brittle. The crowd pressed closer. Mothers pulled their children away, whispering. Erin's heartbeat thundered in her ears. This was the moment every cop feared. What if she was wrong? If she embarrassed herself, her department ruined a man's life for nothing. Titan barked again, pawing at the truck's bumper, hackles raised. Erin's memory flashed. The last time she hesitated, a child disappeared. She wouldn't make that mistake again. "Open the truck, now," she said, voice steel. Suddenly the driver bolted, shoving a teenager aside and sprinting down the path. The crowd erupted in shock. Erin reacted on instinct. She released Titan, called for backup, and gave chase. "Police! Stop!" Titan surged ahead, weaving between startled families, teeth bared in focus. The driver glanced back, stumbled, and sprinted toward the parking lot. Erin felt the world narrow to the thud of her boots, Titan's barking, the wild panic on the man's face. A mother screamed. A stroller tipped over. Erin dodged a flying football, heart pounding. The driver scrambled onto the hood of a sedan, losing his grip as Titan closed in. In one leap, the German shepherd lunged, teeth bared, not to bite, but to block. The man tripped, crashing to the pavement. Erin pinned him, breath ragged. "Maple Ridge PD, hands where I can see them," Titan snarled, standing guard. The man whimpered, shaking, but Erin could see it in his eyes. Guilt, fear, and something else. She cuffed him, glancing at the truck. Its back doors rattled. "Stay with him!" she shouted at a bystander, then hurried to the truck, heart in her throat. What would she find? The crowd hovered, caught between curiosity and fear. Erin swung the doors open. Silence. Then, a muffled cry. Two children, eyes wide and terrified, huddled on the floor, hands bound with duct tape. Erin's breath caught. Relief and horror crashed over her at once. "It's okay," she whispered, voice trembling. She reached in, cutting the tape with her pocket knife. Titan climbed inside, laying down beside the youngest, a girl, maybe 7. The child buried her face in his fur, sobbing. Titan licked her hand gently, tail wagging slow and steady. The older boy clung to Aaron, shaking. Paramedics arrived. Officers pushed the crowd back. As Aaron knelt in the truck, she felt the weight of every what-if, the choice to act, the risk of being wrong, the memory of past failures. But today she trusted Titan, and it made all the difference. As the children were carried to safety, Aaron met Titan's eyes, pride, relief, and something unspoken, a bond deeper than words. But even as the crowd cheered, Aaron's gaze drifted to the front seat of the truck. There, tucked under the dashboard, she spotted something chilling, a stack of burner phones, fake driver's licenses, photos of children. A cold dread settled in her chest. This wasn't just a lone criminal. This was part of something much bigger, and the nightmare was only beginning. The streets of Maple Ridge blurred past, brick facades, silent lawns, the rattle of autumn leaves swirling in Titan's wake. The quiet, safe world from just minutes ago had shattered. Aaron Carter's adrenaline burned through every nerve as she pressed the handcuffed driver into the back of her cruiser, her mind already racing ahead. She called in her location, voice clipped. "Dispatch, I have 2 child victims and 1 male suspect in custody. Requesting immediate backup and EMTs at the park entrance. Possible wider operation. Repeat, possible child trafficking." She tried to sound calm, but her hands trembled on the wheel. Titan, still panting from the chase, pressed his nose against the window, watching the ambulance lights flicker over the terrified faces of the rescued children. The girl clung to his fur, refusing to let go, even as EMTs tried to guide her away. Aaron could see the confusion in their eyes. Why would anyone do this? Why here in the middle of Maple Ridge? A police sergeant arrived, eyes wide as he took in the scene. "You okay, Carter?" "Yeah, kids are in shock. Suspect tried to run. Titan stopped him." Aaron kept her answers short, professional. Inside, she was fighting to keep from shaking. She could still feel the pressure of the mother's hands on her arm, the crack in her voice. "You saved them. You saved them." But as she watched the ambulance doors close, Aaron's thoughts spiraled. What if she'd hesitated? What if Titan hadn't lunged? She glanced at her partner. Titan's scars showed in the ambulance light, his eyes clear and steady. He'd known. He'd acted when she nearly didn't. "Let's process the truck," Aaron said, pulling gloves over her hands. They opened the cab. The fake licenses, burner phones, and photos spilled onto the asphalt. A child's backpack, a stack of school IDs, even a note scrawled with a list of first names. No explanations, just a silent catalog of lost lives. Sergeant Ramirez's face paled. "How deep does this go?" "Too deep." Aaron snapped photos, bagged evidence, mind in overdrive. Every detail felt like a puzzle piece she'd seen before but never put together. "I want every squad looking for similar vans. This wasn't random. Someone was targeting kids in Maple Ridge." Titan nosed a crumpled map under the passenger seat, tail low. Aaron unfolded it, routes marked in red, school names, park locations. Her breath caught. "He's not working alone." A shout from the paramedics. "Officer Carter, the little girl, she's asking for you." Aaron hurried over. The ambulance doors opened to reveal the children, both wrapped in shock blankets. The girl, freckles, tangled hair, eyes far too old, clutched Titan's collar. She was trembling, but her gaze was steady as she met Aaron's eyes. "Is Titan okay?" Her voice was a whisper. Aaron crouched to their level, forcing a smile. "He's tough. He's my partner." The boy, older, silent until now, finally spoke. "He found us. I heard him barking. I thought no one was coming." Aaron felt the weight of those words settle in her chest. For a split second, the park disappeared and she was back in a dark hallway, years ago, listening to the muffled pleas of a child she hadn't reached in time. Her hand shook as she reached out, steadying herself with the warmth of Titan's fur. "You're safe now," she said, voice firmer than she felt. "Can you tell me anything about what happened?" The children traded glances. The boy hesitated, then nodded. "He called someone. He said, 'The lady will be mad if I'm late.' There was another man, but he left before you came." "The lady?" Aaron repeated. She exchanged a look with the paramedic, who was gently examining a scrape on the girl's arm. That's what he called her, the girl said, voice barely audible. She was on the phone. She said we were going to meet her soon. She said not to cry or she'd be angry. Erin swallowed hard, bile rising in her throat. She forced herself to keep asking questions, to keep the children talking, anything to keep them grounded in reality. Did you hear where they were going to take you? No, just the lady and Prescott. The boy's voice quivered. Prescott. Prescott Elementary. Erin made a mental note, already feeling the gears of the investigation shifting. Every detail mattered. She let the paramedics finish. Then, gently, she coaxed Titan to the gurney. The girl reached out, her small fingers curling in Titan's fur as he lay down beside her, head on her lap. His presence calmed her, a silent promise that, for now, the nightmare was over. By the time Erin returned to the scene, detectives from Missing Persons were arriving. Among them was Mark Hanlon, his suit wrinkled, eyes sharp. He took one look at the evidence, the trembling children, and Titan's unwavering gaze. "What do we have?" Hanlon asked, voice low. Erin briefed him, her words tumbling out. The children, the fake IDs, the map, the code name, the lady. As she spoke, Titan sat between them, nose twitching as if searching for scents that might tie the chaos together. Hanlon knelt, holding out his hand to Titan, who sniffed it and leaned in, a silent exchange of trust. "He's special," Hanlon murmured. "You both are." Erin straightened, swallowing her own doubts. "We got lucky." "Luck had nothing to do with it," Hanlon replied, eyes on the truck's evidence. "We're dealing with a ring. This is organized, phones, routes, aliases, and if the lady is involved, we're just scratching the surface." The night deepened, police lights casting blue shadows over the quiet town. Erin watched as the truck was towed away, the children taken to the hospital, Titan finally allowed to rest on the back seat beside her. As they drove toward the precinct, the world outside seemed changed. Safer for now, but only because they'd acted, not hesitated. Erin reached out, hand resting on Titan's neck. "Thank you, partner," she whispered, and for the first time in a long while, she let herself believe in hope, however fragile, however fleeting. But in the back of her mind, the phrase "the lady" echoed like a warning bell. This was only the beginning. The sun had vanished behind Maple Ridge's rooflines, leaving only the hard neon blue of the police station's lights to cut through the darkness. The buzz of rescue, chaos, and sirens was over, but inside the station the echo still lingered, a nervous hum under the skin. Erin Carter's uniform smelled of sweat and panic, her collar rumpled, a dark smudge on her cheek she hadn't noticed. She sat alone in interview room 3, body cam footage paused mid-frame on her laptop. Titan's blurred form leaping, the ice cream man's pale face twisted in fear, the kids cowering behind the driver's seat. She rewound, replayed, watched herself shouting. She should have seen the fear in the girl's eyes sooner, should have kicked in the truck doors even faster, her hands clenched, nails biting her palm. Every frame was a test she was failing in her own mind. A knock. Detective Mark Hanlon, Missing Persons, hair askew, tie crooked, a styrofoam cup of stale coffee in hand. He glanced at the laptop, then at Erin, seeing the exhaustion she tried to hide. "Still torturing yourself with the footage?" he said quietly. "I'm looking for anything I missed," Erin replied, not meeting his eyes. "You didn't miss anything. You saved them, Carter." She wanted to believe it, but guilt gnawed at her. If she'd hesitated a moment longer, would those kids have vanished forever? If she'd been just a bit slower, how many others might be lost, right now, somewhere out there in the dark? Hanlon slid into the chair across from her, his voice gentle. "You did everything right." Erin closed her eyes, forcing herself to breathe. "I did everything by the book. But what if next time I'm not fast enough?" In her mind, the old nightmare returned. A little girl in a yellow jacket, her own voice over the radio calling for backup. Too late, always too late. She could almost hear the echo of that lost plea, smell the cold mildew of the alley where she'd failed. Meanwhile, in her small house on Birch Lane, Titan paced the kitchen, nails clicking on the tile. Erin's neighbor had offered to watch him, but Titan refused to eat, refused to settle, ears swiveling every time headlights swept the window. He could sense it, Erin's turmoil, the unfinished business gnawing at her. The next morning, Erin trudged home, uniform bunched under her arm. Rain pelted the porch, cold and relentless. Titan greeted her with a low whine, pushing his massive head into her chest. He was restless, but also patient, as if he understood that her pain ran deeper than exhaustion. She dropped her gear by the door and collapsed onto the couch, running her hand through Titan's fur, her breath ragged. For a moment, the world shrank to just them, the steady drum of rain on the roof, Titan's warm bulk pressed against her, anchoring her to the present. She whispered, "How many times will I almost lose them?" She didn't expect an answer, but Titan pressed closer, laying his head across her knees. His eyes met hers, soft, forgiving. In their gaze, she found a quiet courage she could borrow for just a while. Later, back at the precinct, Hanlon found Aaron poring over paperwork, eyes bleary but determined. "We got a lead from the kids," he said, placing a file on her desk. "They remembered a code word, the lady, and something about being passed around. Like there's a network, not just one perp." Aaron flipped through the notes. The younger girl had drawn a crude sketch, an ice cream truck, a woman with big sunglasses, a necklace with a star. The older boy had described being blindfolded, then handed off to strangers, always hearing, "Wait until the lady sees you." Hanlon continued, "This is bigger than we thought. The suspect had more burner phones and calls linked to a number in the next county. Some of these kids were missing from towns an hour away." As he spoke, Titan, who Aaron now brought to the station each day, began pacing, agitated, nose pressed to the floor. Aaron watched him, an idea forming. "What is it, boy?" she murmured. Titan padded to the far wall, pawing at the map Hanlon had pinned up. Red pins marked the locations of disappearances. Titan nudged a spot, Prescott Elementary. He circled another, an old highway rest stop. Hanlon noticed, eyebrows raised. "You think he recognizes something?" Aaron's heart pounded. "Titan's been on hundreds of calls with me. He's seen things we haven't. Maybe—" She trailed off, suddenly feeling foolish. But Titan barked low and insistent, pawing at the map again. Hanlon grinned. "Hey, sometimes the dog's instincts are better than ours. Let's pull up any incidents in those areas." Together they dove into old case files, missing person reports, traffic stops, complaints of suspicious vehicles. Patterns emerged. Similar vans, always near playgrounds or schools, drivers using fake names, always a woman involved in at least half the cases, all seemingly random, but now, under Titan's persistent guidance, a web began to appear. It was nearly midnight when Aaron slumped back, eyes burning. Titan curled at her feet, finally calm. Hanlon broke the silence. "You're not alone in this, Carter. Nobody saves anyone by themselves, not even you." His words weren't a lecture, but a lifeline. Aaron managed a tired half-smile, looking down at her partner. "He's the reason those kids are alive. Maybe the reason I am too." Hanlon nodded, voice quiet. "We all need anchors. Yours just happens to have 4 legs and a badge." The rain eased outside, a hush settling over Maple Ridge. Aaron closed her laptop, allowing herself, just for a moment, to believe they might actually win this battle. Maybe she couldn't fix every wound or erase every regret, but she could keep showing up. She could keep fighting. At home that night, she fell asleep with Titan's head in her lap, his breathing steady and safe. The city for once felt at peace. But as dawn crept over the town, Aaron woke to Titan barking at the map, pawing insistently at the places no one had noticed before. The nightmares hadn't ended. They'd only changed shape, and Aaron knew with sudden clarity that the hunt for the lady and the truth behind these disappearances was far from over. Rain swept across Maple Ridge, drumming a steady rhythm against Aaron Carter's windows, washing the world into a blur of gray. In the silence of her home, the storm felt like a living thing, louder, wilder, as if reflecting the turmoil inside her. Her living room was dark except for the faint blue light of a laptop screen, open on the coffee table beside an untouched cup of tea. Titan lay curled on the rug, every so often lifting his head to watch her with worried eyes. Aaron sat hunched on the couch, arms wrapped around herself, watching the rain crawl down the glass. The kids' faces wouldn't leave her mind. The raw fear, the way the little girl had buried herself in Titan's fur, clutching him like a lifeline. The details haunted her, the cold duct tape, the fake names, the phrase "the lady" repeating in her head like a curse. Each memory gnawed at her confidence. She pressed play on her phone's recording app, her therapist's voice from a session months ago. "It's not weakness to feel guilt. Trauma is just the shadow of caring too much." Aaron scoffed. Easy to say, harder to believe at 2 in the morning when the only sound was her own shaky breathing and the steady ticking of the clock. Titan shifted, rising and crossing the room. He nudged her knee gently, insistent. She looked down at him, his muzzle flecked with gray, old scars standing out against his coat, but his eyes bright, loyal. He was her constant, her shield against the dark. "You always know, don't you?" she murmured. Titan didn't answer. He just curled closer, pressing his head to her thigh, heavy and grounding. Erin's mind circled her worst fear. What if I fail again? She'd nearly quit the force a dozen times in the last year. After the failed rescue that haunted her dreams, she'd started to believe maybe she wasn't fit for this work anymore. Maybe Maple Ridge needed someone younger, someone who didn't carry the burden of every lost child. But Titan had never given up on her. A crack of thunder made her flinch. She drew the blanket tighter and let herself speak the words out loud for the first time, voice trembling in the quiet. "What if I fail again, buddy? What if the next kid disappears because I hesitate, or because I see patterns that aren't there?" Titan nosed her hand until she reached out, fingers sinking into his thick fur. His breathing was slow, steady, a metronome guiding her heart back into rhythm. He didn't offer answers, just presence, warmth, and faith. As the hours passed, exhaustion finally crept over her, heavy and irresistible. She slid off the couch, curling up on the floor beside Titan. For the first time in weeks, her sleep was deep and dreamless, anchored by the steady rise and fall of Titan's chest. When dawn came, the storm had passed, leaving the world washed and new. Sunlight cut through the rain-streaked windows, catching on Titan's fur. Erin blinked awake, momentarily confused by the feeling of peace. Titan stretched, yawned, and stood, tail wagging. Erin pushed herself up, heart lighter than it had been in days. She moved through her morning routine almost on autopilot, feeding Titan, brewing coffee, ignoring the dark circles under her eyes in the bathroom mirror. But something was different. A resolve, maybe, or just the memory of how Titan hadn't left her side. She was halfway through her second cup of coffee when she heard a commotion in the living room. Titan stood at the wall, barking sharply at the old paper map she and Hanlon had pinned up last night, red dots marking every child's disappearance in the last 6 months. At first, Erin just watched, but Titan's agitation was different, focused, purposeful. He pawed at the map, barking at 2 spots, Prescott Elementary and the old highway rest stop north of town. Erin's pulse jumped. She hurried over, tracing the spots with her finger. The locations weren't new, but seeing Titan so intent gave her a jolt of clarity. What had she missed? She called Hanlon, voice tight with urgency. "You need to see something. Titan's found a pattern." Within an hour, Hanlon was at her kitchen table, files spread out, eyes narrowing as he listened to Erin explain. Titan circled the table, tail swishing. Erin pointed to the map. "He keeps focusing on these 2 locations. Prescott Elementary and the rest stop. The kids we rescued mentioned both, but we thought it was coincidence." Hanlon frowned. "Let's overlay the incident dates." Together they compared reports. A chilling realization settled over them. Each abduction happened within days of a scheduled event. A school fair, a sports tournament, a community festival, always drawing big crowds and distracted parents. "Look at this," Erin said, voice sharpening. "Every time there's an event at Prescott, a kid goes missing, and the rest stop. Maybe it's a transfer point, somewhere off the radar where they switch vehicles." Hanlon nodded slowly. "It fits. If they're moving kids through a network, they'd need safe places to hand them off. The lady could be the organizer, moving between events." As they pieced together the timeline, Erin felt her confidence returning, not because she was sure of herself, but because she trusted Titan's instincts. He had been right when her own fears had clouded her judgment. She glanced down. Titan was watching her, head cocked, as if waiting for the next move. Hanlon finished writing notes and looked up. "So what now?" "We stake out Prescott," Erin said, certainty returning. "Next event's in 2 days. If they make a move, we'll be ready." Hanlon agreed, but he paused at the door. "Carter, take care of yourself. You can't do this if you're running on empty." Erin managed a wry smile. "I've got backup," she said, glancing at Titan. As dusk settled, Erin and Titan walked the neighborhood, letting the routine settle her nerves. Neighbors waved, kids called out Titan's name, parents whispered their thanks. The world felt less heavy, if only for a moment. Later that night, with Titan curled beside her bed, Erin scribbled in her journal, a habit from the old days, one she'd abandoned until now. "I am not alone. I have Titan, I have the truth, and I have this town. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together." Sleep came more easily. Titan's breathing was steady and warm, a living shield against the darkness. And somewhere in that gentle rhythm, Erin found a fragile hope that even the deepest scars could lead the way to healing, and that trust in herself, in Titan, in their bond, was enough to fight for another day. Morning light crept over Maple Ridge, brushing away the rain's memory and gilding the sleepy town with a deceptive calm. On Prescott Avenue, the air buzzed with the energy of children rushing into the red brick school, parents clutching coffee, teachers wrangling chaos with practiced hands. For most, it was just another weekday. But for Erin Carter, nerves hummed like live wires beneath her skin. She parked her cruiser near the schoolyard, windows down, Titan's nose pressed to the crisp breeze. His head moved slowly, eyes never still. 2 days had passed since he'd pointed them to Prescott. The tension in Erin's chest was a knot she couldn't shake. Every laugh or shriek from the playground sent her heart racing, but she forced herself to watch, wait, and trust. The school was holding its annual book fair, drawing crowds from across town, families, volunteers, even a few local reporters. Erin sipped cold coffee, scanning faces. Hanlon sat in an unmarked sedan across the street, eyes on his phone, but Erin could feel his attention. Titan's posture shifted. A low rumble built in his chest. Erin followed his gaze. A battered white van had pulled into a side lot, the kind with faded stickers and a cracked rearview mirror. But this time the driver wasn't a man. It was a woman, 40s, with dyed blonde hair pulled tight, a flowered blouse buttoned to her chin. Her hands were steady, but her eyes flicked left and right, never resting. Erin's gut tightened. The woman's lips moved, rehearsing a smile, a routine. Titan whined, pawing the door. Erin keyed her mic. "Hanlon, we've got movement. White van, female driver, heading for the playground entrance." "Copy," Hanlon answered, voice tense. The woman popped open the side door, revealing an ice cream cooler and a box of cheap toys. She pasted on her brightest smile and called out, "Who wants a free treat?" Children clustered close, drawn by the promise of sugar and prizes. A teacher waved her off. "You need a permit to sell here." But the woman ignored her, crouching to speak with a boy near the edge of the playground, a kid maybe 8, backpack sliding from one shoulder. Her voice was soft, too gentle. She reached out, offering him a bright red lollipop. Erin's feet hit the pavement before she realized she was running. "Stop! Maple Ridge PD!" The woman jerked up, eyes wide, mask slipping. In a flash, she grabbed the boy's arm, yanking him toward the open van. The world blurred, Erin shouting, kids screaming, parents surging forward. Titan was already moving, a streak of muscle and fur. He leapt the curb, barking so loud it froze the woman in her tracks. For one wild second, she considered running. Then Titan lunged, not biting, but shouldering her away from the child. The boy tumbled to the ground, gasping. Erin tackled the woman, pinning her arms with practiced force. The van's engine sputtered as she kicked the keys away. Titan stood over the boy, body taut, eyes locked on the woman. The crowd stared in stunned silence. "Are you hurt?" Erin asked the boy, kneeling beside him. He shook his head, wide-eyed, and Titan licked his hand, coaxing a nervous smile. Hanlon sprinted across the lot, cuffs ready. "Good work," he said, voice thin with relief. Together they secured the woman and swept the van. Inside, the evidence chilled Erin's blood. Ropes, duct tape, a stack of Polaroids showing different children, detailed lists with names and school schedules, 2 burner phones, tools of a predator, all meticulously organized. Hanlon's face darkened as he rifled through the papers. She was targeting specific kids. "This isn't just opportunity, it's premeditated," Erin nodded, jaw tight. She could see the woman's hands trembling, her eyes darting around for escape, her mask of innocence gone. "Who's the lady?" Erin demanded. The woman pressed her lips shut, shaking her head. Parents rushed to the scene, hugging their children. Several knelt to thank Titan, one mother whispering, "You saved my son." Titan stood patiently, accepting hugs and pats, tail wagging just enough to comfort the frightened kids. Principal Myers, a dignified woman in a navy blazer, arrived, worry carving new lines on her face. "Thank you, Officer Carter." "If you and Titan hadn't been here." Her voice caught, but she recovered, offering Erin a handshake and a grateful look that said more than words. The news spread fast. Titan's heroics became the talk of the school, students crowding to pet him, teachers fighting tears as they watched the rescued boy return to his class. Erin stayed focused, cataloging evidence, her mind racing ahead. This woman wasn't working alone. She was part of the ring, another cog in the machine. Aaron had seen enough in the van, a list of upcoming school events highlighted in red and a map marked with X's. It was a blueprint for future kidnappings. Back at the precinct, the woman sat silent, hands cuffed, refusing to speak. Hanlon tried every trick, but she only stared at her hands. When shown a photo of Titan, she flinched, then turned her face away. As Aaron wrote her report, Titan rested his head on her lap, sensing the exhaustion beneath her calm exterior. The adrenaline had faded, leaving only gratitude and dread. She'd saved a boy, yes, but the ring was still out there. The lady was still out there. Later that night, Aaron stood in her backyard, the stars blurred by tears she refused to let fall. Titan pressed against her hip, and she whispered, "We did good today, partner. But it's not over. Not even close." Inside, Titan curled at her feet as Aaron scrolled through the day's case photos. She memorized every detail. The map, the highlighted names, the coded notes. Knowing each clue mattered. She closed her eyes, drawing strength from Titan's steady presence. For the first time in weeks, she felt the town's trust, the power of a community standing behind her. And she made herself a promise. She would not rest until every child was safe. The next morning at Maple Ridge Precinct, the weight of the latest rescue hung in the air. Every officer seemed tenser, voices lower, hands hovering just a little closer to their radios. Aaron Carter sat in the squad room, maps and files scattered across the conference table. Titan, ever patient, lay at her feet, eyes half closed but ears still turning at every sharp sound. Detective Hanlon wheeled in, coffee in one hand, evidence bag in the other. He set the bag down, burner phones, Polaroids, the woman's cryptic notebook with names and events highlighted in red. "The lab got into the phones," Hanlon said. "Text chains, GPS logs, encrypted calls, all pointing to something bigger." Aaron's jaw tensed. "How big?" Hanlon shrugged, but his eyes were dark. "Bigger than we thought. The GPS logs. There's a pattern." He tapped a map, where Titan's paw prints had led them before. "Drop points all over the county. One location keeps coming up. Old rest stop, Highway 72. Titan stood, tail stiff, nose twitching. Aaron noticed, her instincts prickling. "He's picked up the scent there before." "Could be a transfer site." They scanned printouts of text messages, coded language, short bursts. "Inventory ready. Pipeline clear. Lady checks tonight." Hanlon muttered. "It's like they're running a supply chain." Aaron stared at the notebook, eyes tracing the lists. "There's a transfer scheduled soon. Look, same event pattern, same day of week, just across county lines this time. They're moving fast." Hanlon called in a tech. They mapped out the logs and confirmed it. Every kidnapping lined up with a big event. Every drop with a rest stop or motel just outside town. Aaron felt her pulse accelerate, each puzzle piece clicking into place. She checked her watch. "We need eyes at the rest stop tonight." Hanlon nodded. "I'll pull surveillance. We'll need Titan. He's the only one who's picked up their trail more than once." The day blurred by in a haze of planning. Backup units staged quietly, unmarked cars positioned on dark corners. Titan grew restless as the sun dipped, nose pressed to the back door of Aaron's cruiser. Twilight settled in, painting the highway in long stripes of purple and orange. At the abandoned rest stop, Titan's nose twitched furiously the moment they arrived. He pulled at his lead, dragging Aaron toward a boarded-up bathroom and a dumpster with a false back. She crouched, heart pounding, and ran her flashlight over the ground. Discarded wrappers, broken toys, and chillingly, a tiny shoe. Hanlon joined her, voice low. "See this?" He pointed to a vent hidden behind the dumpster. "Camera's been running, live feed, patched into a server. They've been watching." Titan barked, pawing at a spot beneath the boards. Aaron knelt and pried up a loose plank. Underneath, hard drives, cables, surveillance logs, and a black binder labeled inventory. Hanlon's face went pale as he opened it. Dozens of names, ages, photos, some marked with red X's, some still blank. Aaron swallowed the bile in her throat. They were cataloging the kids, planning every move, Titan whined softly, laying his head on Aaron's knee as she fought to keep her hands steady. "Good boy," she whispered, rubbing his ears for both their sakes. They radioed it in. Within minutes, the rest stop was crawling with officers and techs, each new piece of evidence sending ripples of shock through the team. In the logs, a single message flashed over and over. "Move tonight. Inventory to airfield. No mistakes." Hanlon met Aaron's gaze. "They're not done. There's another transfer planned, tonight." Aaron's hands shook as she scrolled through the new evidence. The text cracked the latest messages. The lady was coordinating a shipment of children, each name coded and cross-referenced. A private airstrip on the outskirts of town lit up as the next location. "Let's get ahead of them," Hanlon said. "We set up at the airfield. Quiet. No heroics unless we have to." Aaron nodded, determination sharpening her features. She glanced at Titan, who stood tall, alert, ready for whatever came next. "We move now. We don't get another chance." As they packed up, Aaron paused at the exit. The scope of the operation chilled her, but the trust in Titan's gaze steadied her hands. "I used to think I was alone in this," she murmured to him, quiet enough that only he could hear. "Not anymore." The drive to the airfield was tense, headlights sweeping empty roads, the silence broken only by radio checks. At the airstrip, the plan fell into place. Surveillance on the hangars, officers in cover, the hum of a private jet powering up in the distance. Inside the main building, techs set up monitors, real-time feeds from the rest stop's servers. Aaron scrolled through lists. Kids' faces, their parents' numbers, coded notes on each child's value. Every beat of her heart felt like a countdown. Titan pressed against her, his presence a reminder that instinct mattered as much as evidence. The world outside the window was dark and uncertain, but Aaron knew what she was fighting for now. Not just justice, not just redemption, but the chance to stop the ring before another child disappeared. Hanlon appeared, face grim. "This is it. We catch them in the act, or we lose them for good." Aaron nodded, glancing at Titan one last time before slipping her vest over her shirt. She met Hanlon's gaze. "No one gets past us. Not tonight." As they moved into position, Aaron felt the familiar fear of failure, of loss, but also something else. Resolve. Hope. Titan's loyalty at her side, and a whole town's prayers behind them. She couldn't promise a perfect ending, but she could promise this: she would not hesitate. The airstrip shimmered with tension as the first vans arrived. Dark windows, children's shadows flickering inside. Aaron's radio buzzed. "It's time." The operation had shifted from hunt to rescue, and somewhere in the shadows, Aaron could almost sense the lady watching, waiting for her next move. But so was Titan. So was Aaron. And for the first time, the odds felt just a little bit more even. A violent summer storm cracked the sky over Maple Ridge, lightning flickering along shuttered storefronts and flooding the city with sheets of rain. Thunder rattled the police SUV as Aaron Carter gripped the wheel, every muscle locked with anticipation. Titan shifted beside her, tense and alert, eyes glowing in the strobing blue of the dashboard lights. On the seat between them, Hanlon spoke into the radio, voice taut. "Units are in position. Suspects confirmed inside. No movement yet." They'd traced the ring's coded texts to an abandoned photography studio downtown. Once a place where families posed for portraits, now a shell splattered with graffiti, its windows blacked out. Tech surveillance revealed strange activity, late-night power spikes, children entering and not leaving, delivery vans with fake plates. This was it, a staging site for the final shipment, the last link before the airfield. The rain hammered the windshield, muffling the world. Aaron's hand hovered over the door, pulse hammering in her ears. She met Titan's eyes, found silent reassurance there. "Ready, partner?" she whispered. Titan's answer was a soft, steady whine, the signal she needed. A dispatcher's voice crackled. "Go! Go now!" Aaron and Hanlon moved as one, SWAT at their backs. The studio door gave way beneath the battering ram, hinges shrieking. Thunder and shouts collided as they stormed inside, flashlights cutting through darkness and dust. A camera flash exploded. Blinding white, then the tableau. 3 children, huddled on a tattered couch, eyes wide with terror. A man in a photographer's vest spun around, hands up, stammering. Another figure tried to run for a rear exit. Titan surged forward, guided by Aaron's command, intercepting the fleeing suspect with a fierce bark. The man froze, pressed against the wall, arms shaking. SWAT fanned out, clearing rooms, securing doorways. "Hands where I can see them! On the ground!" Aaron's voice sliced through the chaos. One child whimpered. Aaron knelt, lowering her weapon, softening her features. "It's okay. We're here now. You're safe." Hanlon cuffed the photographer, dragging him aside. On a grimy desk, Aaron spotted open portfolios, dozens of photos, each one more chilling than the last. Children posed in costumes, their faces forced into masks of fun. In the wastebasket, plane tickets. Destinations, Dallas, Miami, and scrawled in red, a private landing strip outside town. As SWAT swept the studio, Aaron focused on the children. 3, all under 10, one girl trembling so hard she could barely stand. Aaron reached out, her voice barely a whisper. "You're safe. We're police." But the girl's eyes were wild with panic. She flinched from Aaron, inching backward until Titan, calm and unmoving, lay down between them, a silent wall of fur. The girl clung to him, fingers knotting in his ruff. His tail thumped once, slow and reassuring. "Titan won't let anything happen to you," Aaron promised. Outside, lightning split the sky. Hanlon hustled the other 2 kids into a waiting ambulance, his voice low and soothing. Inside, Aaron checked every inch of the studio. In a storage room, she found a duffel bag of children's clothes, a list of buyers, and a folder with a coded manifest. A radio call. "We have a runner. Back alley." Aaron bolted out, rain blinding. She caught sight of a woman in a trench coat, blonde hair, sunglasses even at night, dragging a girl toward a black SUV. "The lady!" Instinct roared in Aaron's blood. "Police!" "Stop!" The woman threw the child behind her and lunged for the SUV. Titan tore past Aaron, barreling between the woman and the girl. The lady swung her purse, a flash of metal. Titan barked, teeth bared, driving her back until Aaron reached them. "Don't move!" Aaron shouted, gun raised. The lady froze, hand trembling, hate burning in her eyes. Officers closed in, wrenching her arms behind her, ignoring her curses. The rescued girl collapsed into Aaron's embrace, sobbing. Hanlon appeared, drenched and breathless, waving a phone. "Got it. Real-time tracker. Final shipment tonight at the airfield. They were going to fly them out by midnight." Aaron gathered the children, Titan standing guard. She knelt beside the girl who'd clung to him, voice unsteady but full of promise. "You're safe. You're going home." Outside, the town was coming alive. Neighbors crowding the rain-swept sidewalk, craning for a glimpse, trying to understand how evil could hide in a place they thought they knew. The rescued kids stared at Titan with something like awe, some reaching out to touch his fur, needing to believe in a good so solid and real. Inside the studio, the evidence was overwhelming. Ledgers of payments, photos of children, coded schedules, digital memory cards labeled priority. Aaron's hands shook as she realized how close they'd come to losing everyone. How many more names would have ended up on these lists? Hanlon rested a hand on her shoulder. "You did it, Carter. They're safe because you listened. To your instincts, to Titan. That's what made the difference." Aaron swallowed hard, staring at the little girl still clutching Titan's collar. "We're not done. The jet leaves at midnight. The real mastermind is waiting." A heavy silence settled between them. Outside, the rain began to fade, replaced by a dawn-colored glow at the horizon. "We move now," Aaron said, her voice steady. "No more delays." She looked at Titan, her partner, her anchor. His tail thumped again, as if answering her unspoken question. They were ready. The rain finally eased as midnight crept across Maple Ridge, leaving behind a world washed clean and shining under streetlights. But at the edge of town, beneath the harsh white glow of flood lamps and the relentless drone of jet engines, there was no peace. Only tension so thick it was hard to breathe. Private jets squatted on the tarmac at Pine Hill Airfield, their windows black, doors sealed tight. Aaron Carter crouched behind a hangar, heart racing. Her vest dug into her ribs with each breath. Titan pressed at her side, head low, muscles coiled with purpose. Hanlon was a shadow on her other flank, his jaw clenched, radio silent. The team had fanned out, SWAT in the tall grass beyond the fence, patrol units in the lot, detectives covering every exit, but all eyes were on the main hangar, where a row of black SUVs idled and a handful of figures moved children toward the looming jet. Most were small, barely teens, clinging to each other as if the darkness itself would swallow them. The lady was there, her blonde hair damp, her face gaunt and cold in the floodlights. But beside her, in a crisp gray suit, stood a man Aaron recognized from 100 unsolved files. Daniel Gentry, the ghost, the mastermind. He barked orders into a phone, his voice cool and effortless, as if this were just business. He barely glanced at the children. "On my mark," Hanlon whispered, voice gravel and thunder. Erin's nerves screamed, but she waited, tracking Gentry as he paced near the ramp. Every nightmare she'd carried, every doubt, every sleepless night, all of it pointed to this moment. She touched Titan's collar, grounding herself in his steady presence. Suddenly one of the children, a girl with tangled braids barely 9, tripped and fell. The lady's hand flashed, sharp and cruel. Erin's vision narrowed, anger a hot wire. She caught Titan's eye. He tensed, waiting for her signal. Hanlon's voice. "Go!" Everything exploded. Officers surged from the shadows, floodlights snapping on, sirens shrieking. Aaron vaulted the barrier, shouting, "Maple Ridge Police, don't move!" Chaos. Gentry spun, grabbing the nearest child, pressing a pistol to her shoulder. The lady lunged for the SUV, but Titan intercepted, barking so ferociously that even the most hardened thug froze. Aaron sprinted, training her sidearm on Gentry. He smiled, a cold, knowing thing. "You don't want to do this, Officer Carter. You lose, the world keeps spinning. You step out of line, and your partner's next." He jerked his chin at Titan. "He's got quite a reputation." Erin's mind flashed. Every failure, every fear, Titan's loyalty, her own breaking heart, but she stood her ground, eyes burning. "You're done, Gentry. Let the girl go," Titan growled, teeth bared, unmoving between Gentry and the jet. Aaron advanced, ignoring the gun, focusing only on the girl's wide, terrified eyes. SWAT units flanked the SUVs, officers shouting commands. Hanlon edged closer, his weapon trained on the lady as she tried to pull another child away. A gunshot split the air, a warning, wild and desperate. Gentry shoved the girl, making a break for the jet. Titan launched, intercepting, knocking Gentry off balance. Aaron moved in, disarmed Gentry with a practiced twist, her hands steady even as her heart crashed against her ribs. Titan never left her side, a living shield. Officers swept in, cuffing the lady, her defiance burning out into rage and then silence. Hanlon collected evidence bags, ledgers, burner phones, tablets packed with digital records. Aaron checked the jet, heart in her throat. 8 more children, alive, crying, trembling but safe. Aaron knelt with the rescued kids, arms open, letting them come to her if they wanted. "You're safe. Nobody's taking you anywhere." Titan lay down beside her, allowing the bravest to pet his fur. The moment was tender, if only for a heartbeat. SWAT led Gentry and the lady away, their empires crumbling as flashbulbs erupted from the distant press line. Hanlon looked at Aaron, his face slack with relief. "We did it! We really did it!" Aaron exhaled, a sound between laughter and a sob. She turned to Titan, scratching behind his ears. "You did it, partner. You kept them safe. You kept me safe." As dawn began to break, police collected the children, matching them to frantic parents arriving on the scene. Some parents collapsed in tears. Others simply knelt and hugged their kids as if they would never let go. The storm was over. The nightmare was ending. But as Aaron watched Titan shepherd the last child to safety, she realized something. Heroism isn't about guns or badges or even perfect choices. It's about showing up again and again when you're scared and trusting the instincts that tell you when to act. She stood among the chaos, Titan at her side, and felt the burden of every haunted night begin to lift. But for now, they weren't thinking about past mistakes or the scars they'd carry. For now, the only thing that mattered was the sunrise, and the knowledge that for 8 more children, there would be another tomorrow. By late afternoon, Maple Ridge pulsed with a new energy, anxious, electric, but charged with something deeper than fear. The airfield raid had swept through the local news, parents crowding sidewalks to share stories, children clutching their families tighter. Outside the city hall, a sea of faces gathered beneath bright banners. For the first time in weeks, the town wasn't united by dread, but by a fierce and desperate hope. Inside, the council chamber overflowed. TV crews angled for shots of the rescued children, each one already changed, some grinning, some clinging to their parents, all survivors. Aaron Carter stood by the stage in full uniform, every muscle stiff with nerves. Titan rested at her heel, basking in a swirl of hands, children stroking his fur, parents murmuring thanks, tears shining in their eyes. Detective Hanlon lingered at the edge of the crowd, arms crossed, exhaustion and pride mingling on his face. When Aaron's name was called, the room fell silent. She stepped to the podium, her speech clutched in one hand, Titan's leash in the other. She didn't trust her voice at first, but then she glanced down at Titan. His eyes were steady, unafraid. She cleared her throat. People ask me if I'm afraid. The truth is, I am, every day. But courage isn't about the absence of fear. It's about acting for someone else, even when you're terrified. A hush lingered. Aaron forced herself to keep going. Titan never hesitated. He trusted his instincts, and I trusted him. Because of that, lives were saved. I almost let my own fear keep me from acting, but Titan reminded me that sometimes you just have to move, because someone needs you. In the audience, parents wept quietly. One small girl, Jada, the one who'd clung to Titan in the studio, slipped from her mother's side, walked up the aisle and stood before Titan. She took a plastic medal from her neck, the kind given out at fun runs and school field days, and looped it gently over Titan's head. The applause began quietly, then built until the whole chamber thundered. Aaron felt her throat close. She crouched, hugging Titan close, whispering, "You saved them, partner. You saved me too." As the noise faded, Hanlon stepped to the mic, voice strong. "Let's never again ignore the warning signs. Let's empower our kids to speak up, trust their instincts, and look out for each other. Evil hides in silence. It's up to us, every parent, every neighbor, every teacher, to pay attention." He paused, letting the words land. No police officer, no K9, no detective can do it alone. Community keeps us safe. This case proved it. In the back of the room, survivors' families shared embraces. One father, face roughened by sleepless nights, knelt beside Titan and just rested his hand in the dog's fur, head bowed in silent gratitude. Later, the press conference drifted into open conversation. Reporters angled for interviews, but Aaron avoided the cameras. Instead, she found herself surrounded by the children she'd helped save. Some peppered her with questions, others just pressed close, taking comfort in Titan's warmth. Hanlon joined her, his usual cynicism stripped away by the gravity of what they'd accomplished. "You realize you've started something, Carter. Whole town's talking about building a new K9 training center. Your name's on the proposal." Aaron laughed, tired but genuine. "Name it after Titan. He's the real hero." Hanlon looked around at the parents, teachers, officers, and survivors. "People need a story that ends with hope. Let's make sure this isn't the last." The mayor took the stage, issuing proclamations and thanks, but the words that stuck with everyone came from Aaron and Hanlon, the call for vigilance, courage, and community. Afterward, Aaron sat on the steps outside City Hall, letting the cool dusk air wash over her. Titan rested his chin on her knee, tail thumping softly. She watched families leave, each parent holding their child a little tighter. The survivors' laughter, real, wild, untamed, rippled through the courtyard. A mother stopped beside Aaron, her voice shaking. "I never thought evil could come here. I never thought we'd need heroes." She paused, eyes brimming. "Thank you for being brave." Aaron shook her head. "I wasn't brave alone. It took everyone, the kids, the officers, the whole town. Titan just showed us how to trust our instincts." As night fell, the lights of Maple Ridge glowed in the dark, a beacon for anyone who'd ever felt alone or afraid. The town had been tested and found its strength not in one hero, but in many. In that moment, Aaron understood what she'd missed for years. Rescue was always a team effort. Healing was always possible, if you let others in. And sometimes, the most important courage wasn't the loud kind, but the quiet, relentless decision to keep showing up. The medal still hung around Titan's neck as he looked up at Aaron, his eyes reflecting the lights and the hope rising all around them. A new chapter was beginning, not just for the rescued children, but for the entire town. Maple Ridge Park glowed in the gold of late afternoon, the air alive with laughter and the carefree shrieks of children. It was the same park where everything began, where the peace of a sleepy town was first shattered, but now it was changed, transformed by wounds and healing alike. On the edge of the green, a new sign gleamed, K9 Training Area, dedicated to Titan. The metal plaque bore an inscription, "In honor of Titan, whose courage and instincts saved lives and restored hope to our community. Let every bark be a warning and every act of kindness a promise." Erin Carter watched from a shaded bench, her hands wrapped around a cup of coffee gone cold. She let herself sink into the ordinary sounds, the slap of a ball against the pavement, the squeal of swings, the hum of distant conversation. Titan, a little slower now, romped with a cluster of children. He let them hang on his neck, tug at his fur, bury their faces in his side. Some of the rescued kids, Jada, Ben, the girl from the ice cream truck, ran with him, their giggles high and bright. Parents stood nearby, chatting, sometimes glancing at Erin with gratitude, sometimes just with relief. Every so often someone approached, another handshake, another thank you, another story of how their family had changed. Erin listened, nodded, smiled, and then always found her gaze drifting back to Titan. For the first time in years, her chest felt light. The anxious edge she'd carried for so long was blunted, replaced by something gentler, a peace earned, not given. Hanlon dropped onto the bench beside her, slouching as usual. "You know, I heard they're getting funding for a second K9 team. Titan's got some competition now." Erin chuckled, shaking her head. "Nobody's replacing him. He'll train the new pups. Maybe they'll get half his heart." Hanlon followed her gaze. "You seem different. Lighter." She nodded, watching a small girl wrap her arms around Titan's neck. "For years, I was haunted by what I'd lost. By the ones I couldn't save. But Titan showed me the only way to defeat darkness is to keep showing up, to keep believing in good, even after you've seen the worst." He nudged her shoulder. "You're not so bad at hope yourself, Carter." They watched in silence as the sun began to set, the sky streaked with pink and orange. Titan wandered over, flopped at Erin's feet with a sigh. She reached down, scratching his ears, letting the old dog rest his head in her lap. Across the park, the new K9 training area bustled with life. Handlers, trainers, eager dogs, and even more eager kids. Erin rose, walked over with Titan at her side. She paused at the plaque, fingers tracing the words. It wasn't just about Titan, she realized. It was about everyone who'd chosen to act, to speak up, to trust their instincts and look out for each other. A crowd had gathered, the mayor reading a few words about bravery, about how ordinary heroes had saved the town. But Erin didn't need speeches. She glanced at the rescued children, saw how freely they played, how they trusted the world again. Their healing was the real reward. As dusk settled, Erin sat again, this time alone, beneath the trees. Titan lay beside her, breath steady, eyes reflecting the park's twinkling lights. She thought of the lesson, the meaning behind everything they'd survived. Evil is ordinary, and so is heroism. The monsters never look like monsters until it's too late, and the heroes rarely look like they do in movies. Titan's story proved that courage can be quiet, that one voice, one bark, can change the world. She remembered what Hanlon had said at the city hall. Change begins with one voice. It only took a single loyal dog and someone willing to listen, to shatter a criminal ring and restore a community's safety. Anyone could be that catalyst. Anyone could answer the call. And Titan himself, broken and battered from years of service, had proven something else, the power of second chances. Healing wasn't just possible, it was real, and it started with refusing to give up. She'd been given another chance, so had Titan, so had every kid playing in that sunlit park. As the sky deepened to purple and the first stars appeared, Erin gathered Titan close, her voice soft but certain. If this story touched you, like and follow our channel. And remember, never ignore your instincts. Never stay silent when someone needs help. Even small actions can spark hope and save lives. Be the light in someone else's darkness. Titan lifted his head, watching the sun's last rays slip away. His scars, once painful reminders, were now emblems of hope. The laughter of children, the gratitude of parents, the strength of a town that had faced its fears and chosen to stand together. All of it was woven into this new, brighter chapter. As Erin leaned back, Titan's head in her lap, she felt, at last, whole. Together, they reminded Maple Ridge, and anyone who listened, that healing is possible, courage is contagious, and hope always returns if you're brave enough to answer the call.